Dr. Butsawan, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome again to this World River and Delta System, the Source to Sink webinar series. Today, we invite Dr. Butsawan Bidorn from Thailand to come here talk about Chao Phraya Delta. I know somebody said Chao Phraya, and so before I introduce Dr. Butsawan, I would like to say this talk series starting from this this semester, August. So is sponsored by National Science Foundation, co-sponsored by North Carolina State University, Louisiana State University, Utrecht University, and State Key Lab of Estuary and Coastal Research in East China Normal University in Shanghai. And a little bit of background, I know there's some new participant here. So this talk series started this time last year. The first talk last year given by August 5th, 2020. So the reason we know that, you know, during last year, during the pandemic, we are locked down, most of the country was locked down at home. And I was supposed to have a sabbatical, but I cannot go anywhere. So I said, why not we just working together, have that kind of online talk so we can put the River Delta and Source to Sink community together. So that's the reason. I never expected this talk series go this big and this long, but we are very lucky, and with the support from community, with the support from you and everybody. So I think it's going on very well. In the past, we already almost 80 talks was hosted 80 talks, and all of them have already archived on our YouTube channel. As you can see here, it's all available. So feel free to use them. And also, you also can follow us on Twitter, Source to Sink. We will announce every week's talk. And so our next Wednesday will be the talk given by Professor John Anderson from Rice University. And this talk will be hosted by Louisiana State University Professor Sam Bentley. Okay, Dr. Butsawan Bidorn is currently, she is a lecturer in Thailand, Chulalongkorn University. And I hope she will teach us how to say the name. And but I want to say is she got her PhD from Florida State University, and you know the title is Courses of Shoreline Retreat in the Upper Gulf of Thailand. So her research is focused on river and coastal field observation, understand the morphodynamic of river, deltic, and coastal zone, and also the response of the coastal environment to the human activity and climate change. So I think Dr. Bidorn, so now I can give the floor to you. Please share your screen.
Thank you so much, Professor Liu. Just a second. Share my screen. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, yes.
Okay, okay. So. I think I'm ready. So let me start. Okay. Okay. Good morning, everyone in US, and good afternoon, everyone in Europe, and also good evening, everyone in Asia. My name is Butsawan Bidorn. A lecturer at the Department of Water Resources Engineering, Chulalongkorn University, Thailand. First of all, I would like to thank Professor Dr. Liu for giving me the opportunity to join the S2S talk. This is a very useful webinar that give me, I mean, very useful for the audience that can access the information and academic information on the environment of the chapter. This is one of the most important issue nowadays. And I also thank you guys for joining my presentation, and it's my pleasure to share some of the output of my research team on sediment study in the Chao Phraya Delta, which is the largest delta in Thailand. And the topic of my presentation today is about an analysis of the factor responsible for the shoreline retreat of the Chao Phraya Delta. As I'm not an English native speaker, I may speak slow. If you have any questions, please let me know after the presentation. Thank you. Okay. So here is the outline of my talk today. I will give you a background on Chao Phraya Delta, which is quite small compared to the major river of the world. Then I will I will present the historical shoreline erosion during the past 6 decades. And the next session, I will discuss about the possible factor related to the shoreline retreat in the Chao Phraya Delta, including I'm going to talk about the sedimentation rates studied by our research team, and and then I will summarize the possible factor controlling the shoreline recession of the Chao Phraya Delta. So as you may already know that many shoreline of the world are retreating as a consequence of the global sea-level rise and other factors because of their low relief of largest and the largest area. So the shoreline susceptible to the delta susceptible to the sea level change, and many consequences delta rising in the delta region are augmented by the upstream activity. Many delta propagated into the sea over geological time scale, result of the sedimentation, and now displaying shoreline retreat. Many Asian delta, including Chao Phraya Delta, Mekong, Irrawaddy, and other have experiences of chronic flooding over the last several years. Even Hongi Delta, once the largest of in the world, is historical formation rate of 20 to 25 square kilometer per year. Is now shrinking due to the sediment trapping behind the dams. And most delta that suffer from flooding will not receive a sufficient amount of the sediment as the result of the upstream damming. Shoreline retreat in a delta setting can have a variety of causes, including global sea level rise, regional subsidence, both natural and induced by the groundwater and hydrocarbon extraction. Other factors include destruction of mangroves, as well as the reduction in sediment supply after the large storage dams are constructed. What are the major factors causing the erosion of the Chao Phraya Delta in Thailand? When examined on the decades-long time scale, this delta has been reported as one of the delta that with the highest rate of shoreline retreat in the world. So let me give you some background about the Chao Phraya Delta. The Chao Phraya River is the Chao Phraya River is the largest and the most important river in Thailand. It is formed by the coalescing of 4 rivers, the Ping, Wang, Yom, and Nan rivers in the upland of the northern Thailand. The river hosts largest city, Bangkok, which is the capital city of the country, and also hosts the main port of the country as well. The drainage basin of the river basin is about 150,000 square kilometer, and the river has a length of 1,200 kilometer. The Chao Phraya River discharge vary from 50 to 2,400 cubic meter per second, with an average discharge of 480 cubic meter per second. The sediment load measured at the upstream station over the last 50 years vary between 2 and 2 million metric ton per year. Why this is sediment flood from this river seems significant, to be a significant source of the sediment. These fluxes appear somewhat minor compared to other major river in the world. However, on the geologic time scale, the Chao Phraya Delta advanced into the Gulf of Thailand over the last 2,000 years at the rate of about 1.5 square kilometer per year. This is equivalent to the seaward shoreline migration during this period of 10 to 25 kilometer at the mouth of the Chao Phraya Delta. However, this advance reversed in the middle of the last century, and the shoreline retreats accelerate rapidly over the last 6 decades. 2 large dams were constructed in the upstream of the river, one in the mid of the 1960s, and another one constructed in early of 1970s. So these 2 dams are constructed on 2 of the river that form the Chao Phraya River. The loss of the sediment loss as a result of these 2 dams has been considered as the main factor in the high shoreline retreat rate of the delta. However, very high accelerated compaction or subsidence, which range from 50 to 150 millimeters per year due to groundwater pumping, likely play an important role as well. The rate of shoreline loss in this region is so great that in a review of the road deltas, to understand the coastal situation and the response of the Chao Phraya Delta on the human activity causing the rapid shoreline retreat recently, historical shoreline change along the Chao Phraya Delta coastline were studied. This slide presents the results from long-term shoreline change analysis. The time series shoreline analysis was used to investigate the shoreline change along the coast of the Chao Phraya Delta. The coastline between the Tajin River and the Bang Pagong rivers were digitized from aerial photographs and satellite imagery taken from several periods between 1954 to 2019. By comparing the earliest shoreline data to the latest shoreline data, the long-term shoreline change over the past 55 years was estimated as shown in the bottom panel. The delta can be divided into the western and the eastern coastline. The western coastline extends from the Tajin River over here and the Chao Phraya River with the range of the coastline of about 45 kilometers. While the eastern part covers about 35 kilometers of coastline between the Chao Phraya River and the Pangpakong River. The Chao Phraya, based on the long-term shoreline change analysis, the delta has been experiencing severe shoreline retreat during the past 6 decades. In the western portion, about 70% of its coastline shift landward, with the average rate of the shoreline retreat about 10 meters per year. The maximum retreat rate of about 21 meters per year was found near the Chao Phraya River mouth. Similarly, the recess coastline of the eastern portion accounts for 65% of its coastline, but the average rate of the shoreline retreats is slightly less than the western coast. The shoreline shift has caused about 1,600 hectares of land loss along the delta during the past 65 years, while the shoreline advanced with the shoreline retreat as one rate less than 3 meters per year, resulting in land attrition of about 450 hectares only. The highest shoreline retreat over the past 6 decades was found at the Ban Khun Sumjin village, with an average rate of, as I mentioned before, 21 meters per year. This slide shows the location of the village, and the 4 figures on the left show the evolution of the coastline in 4 time periods: 1974, 1991, 2009, and 2021. The red dot in the indicate the location of the village temple, which right now has already flooded by the water, sea water. We can see that we can use the location of the temple as a landmark for evidencing the shoreline retreat in this location. The leftmost figure shows that in 1974, the temple was located about 250 meters away from the sea. But 17 years later, the temple was right next to the sea. In later 18 years, the temple was about 500 away from the land. And the figure of the 2021 show the current situation of the shoreline retreat at this village. Besides long-term shoreline change analysis, we did the short-term change of the shoreline analysis as well. The short-term analysis can be used to evaluate the recognized climate and human activity at a certain time. This slide shows the result from analysis of the short-term shoreline change rate from 9 time intervals between 3 to 14 years interval, calculated from the 2 successive shoreline position from the available historical shoreline dataset. The short-term shoreline change pattern along the Chao Phraya Delta coast can be divided into 3 measured periods. The first periods between cover between 1954 and 1976 as the early period of the country's development, and the second period cover between 1967 to 2002 as the period of the rapid coastal degradation. And the third period, we consider the period of after 2002 to the 2019 as a period of coastal protection. Based on the results from short-term shoreline analysis, we found that the shoreline retreats have been observed at both sides of the delta since early stage of the country development. Then the shoreline retreat rate increased over time, with the maximum rate of shoreline retreat in 2002, and after 2002, shoreline retreat rate continuously declined to 5 meters per year in 2019, and in the western portion of the Chao Phraya Delta, and decreased to 6 meters per year in the western portion of the Chao Phraya Delta, while the current rate of shoreline advance increased to 4 meters per year in the western portion, and increased to 9 meters per year in the eastern portion. In this slide, we also show the government effort on shoreline stabilization in the Chao Phraya Delta. The green line represents the mangrove rehabilitation since 1964, and while the black line represent the structure measure used for protecting the coastline, and they have intensively been used after 2002. I have several slides show the evidence of shoreline change in each measure period. This slide shows the change in coastal environment between 1954 and 1967, the early period of the country development. The shoreline change in the western portion of the Chao Phraya Delta in the green circle, shown in the left panel, while the two panels in the right show the change in the eastern portion. This slide shows the rapid shoreline change during the 1967 to 2002 along the western coastline compared to the early period of the country development. You can see the rapid shoreline retreat during the 1967 to the 2002 occurred near the Chao Phraya river mouth. Okay. This slide shows the rapid shoreline change during the same time period along the eastern coastline compared to the period of the country development as well. And you can see that the maximum shoreline retreat occurred in near the mid of the western portion of the Chao Phraya Delta. And this slide shows the shoreline erosion in the western coast of the Chao Phraya Delta during a period of coastal protection compared to the period of the rapid shoreline retreat. The top panel shows the shoreline with the mangrove rehabilitation at the Banpun routine, where the highest shoreline retreat rate occurred. The bottom left panel show the shoreline in 2013 after the Pai breakwater and bamboo fence has been installed in 2007 and 2011 respectively. The right panel illustrates the shoreline in 2016 and 2019, which indicate the unsuccessful shoreline stabilization of bamboo fence and the Pai breakwater. And this slide shows the photo of the structure used for protecting the shoreline at Ban Queen Routine. And the bottom left is the bottom left presents the coastal degradation at the Ban Queen Routine village. And this slide illustrates the shoreline erosion at the eastern coast of the Chao Phraya Delta during the period of the coastal protection. The top left panel shows the shoreline with the mangrove rehabilitation in 2002 as well. The bottom left panel shows the shoreline in 2009 after detached backwater have been installed in 2008 and 2008. And the right panel shows the shoreline in 2013 and 2019, which indicate the unsuccessful shoreline protection of the breakwater installed in the 2008 and 2014. But it shows the successful land reclamation by installing the backwater in 2018 over here. Problem with my mouse. So it's likely that there are several contributing factors that have resulted in the extreme high rates of the shoreline erosion in the Chao Phraya Delta. Local sea level change, destruction of mangrove forests, sand mining, and reduction of the sediment supply may all play a role. Since the climate is in this region is moderate, with the average wave height generally less than 1 meter, and climate change has not been reported. Today, I'm going to talk about the three factors that have been considered as the major cause of the coastal erosion in this region. The relative sea level change, destruction of mangrove forests, reduction of the riverine sediment supply. I will also talk about the sediment deposition in this delta analyzed by latitude dating technique as well. Okay, since land subsidence coupled to the global sea level change has been identified as an important component of the shoreline retreat in this region. Local annual sea level change at to the location in the Chao Phraya Delta region, the Bangkok Bar location, which cover the period of the water level data from 1940 to 2000 were used in this study. Also, the water level data are observed in at the Chao Phraya River mouth, the Chao Phraya River mouth at Fort Prachula Ground, with the data range from 1940 to 2018, also used for analyzing the sea level change in this study. The middle portion shows the time series of water level measured at the major tidal gauging station of Thailand. Sea level change, sea level measured at the tidal gauge station for Prachula Chomkla, located in the river mouth, has continuously increased. I mean, the red line represents the water level observed at the Fort Prachula Chomkla over here. You can see the increase of the water level with a trend of linear trend of about 14.3 millimeter per year from 1940 to 2018. The Bangkok Bar Station, represented by the back line, show the increase of sea level at the rate of 12.4 millimeter per year from 1940 to 2000. The red, green and purple lines in the middle portion show the no significant trend of the sea level change and along the Gulf of Thailand and Andaman Sea. Therefore, the plot of the water level measured at the Fort Pachulachongkao and Bangkok Bar represent the combination between the sea level change and the land subsidence effect in this region. If we assume the constant rate of eustatic sea level rise of 1.9 millimeter to 3.1 millimeter per year over the during the period of 1954 to 2013, we can estimate the effect of land subsidence from the water level record at the Fort Pachun and Bangkok Bar Station. And the total land subsidence in the Delta over the past 60 years has varied between 65 and 96 centimeter, with the greatest subsidence near the Chao Phraya River mouth. The magnitude of the land subsidence correlates strongly with the groundwater extraction, which accelerates during the expansion of the city of the Bangkok from 1970. The Chao Phraya Delta has one of the highest rate of human-induced subsidence at 50 millimeter to 150 millimeter per year. Intensive groundwater use began in Thailand in 1953 and become widely used in the Bangkok area during 1977 to 1989. Regarding the government regulation on groundwater pumping, the large decline on groundwater use during 1983 and 1987 occurred. However, the groundwater use increased again in the newly developed area in the suburb of the Bangkok since 1993 as a result of rapid socio-economic growth along the coast. The groundwater use has declined again from 2003, and the current rate of the land subsidence in this area or the delta shoreline is estimated at 10 to 30 millimeter per year. And this slide shows the correlation between the land subsidence and the shoreline change rate. In the left panel, for the right panel, we plot the groundwater use versus the time series of the groundwater use and the time series of the land subsidence together, and we found the correlation between land subsidence rate and the groundwater use in this area. So the loss of mangrove has been proposed to be a cause of the destruction of the intertidal area because of it's no longer protected from the shoreline erosion. And many studies have suggested that the rehabilitation of the mangrove areas would be a key factor in stabilizing and restoring the shoreline in degraded intertidal areas. However, based on historical area and satellite images, it was found that the mangrove forests along the Chao Phraya coast have been continuously converted into the aquacultural area since 1954, and by the mid of the 1970s, only about 10% of the original mangrove area remained. However, via the natural mangrove expansion as well as reforestation efforts, the mangrove coverage as a percent of the total land area has remained more or less constant over the past 40 years, while the shoreline retreat has continued. It was thus concluded that mangrove removal was not the major cause of the shoreline retreat in this region, although it may have amplified the effect of the rapid sea level rise. For the reduction in sediment supply, as many investigators have pointed out that reduction in the river and sediment supply occur when dams are complete and sediment are trapped in the resulting reservoir. This may lead to erosion in the delta at the delta as the main sediment supply is cut off. The Chao Phraya Dam, a diversion dam over here, has finished in 1957. Was built in about at about 280 kilometers from the river mouth. The main purpose of this dam actually abolished is to raise the level of the river in order to divert some flow into an irrigation system. Some year later, two large dams were built in the upstream section of two river, the Butsawan Dam on the Pink River, and it's completed in 1964, and the Sedimentation Dam was built on the Nan River, and it finished in 1972. This dam store a large quantity of water during the wet season, and release the water during the dry months. In terms of sediment trapping, these two dams are much more important than the diversion dam, accounting for more than 95% of the storage volume from all reservoir on the Chao Phraya River system. The report suggests that the sediment reduction of the regarding this construction sorry. The construction of these two dams has reduced 75 to 85% after of the sediment supply to the Chao Phraya Delta. But however, we show here that when the sediment loss in the Chao Phraya observed at the station C2, please be informed that station is C2 is a hydrological station, observe the sediment data, and it's widely used for assessing the effect of the Butsawan and Butsawan dam construction in the Pink River. So based on the data, sediment data observed at the C2 station, we found that the average annual rate of total sediment supply at the station C2 were actually relatively constant at about 5.4 million metric ton per year from 1956 to 2002. It's made up to 30 years after the Secret Dam was completed. The beginning of the in about 2003, there was a significant drop in the sediment yield that likely reflect the increase of water diversion for irrigation activities. Data from Hydro and Agro-Informatics Institute indicate that the river flow and the sediment load in the upper basin of the Chao Phraya River and the associated river basin may alter by intensive water management, especially for expanding irrigated area during the past 2 decades. And our analysis suggests that the timing of the reduction in sediment flux at the station C2 did not match the period of the dam construction. Presumably, additional source of the sediment below the dam compensated for the sediment loss trapping by the reservoir. Recently, our research team just published several papers on variation of the sediment supply in the major tributary of the Chao Phraya river system to evaluate the effect of the large dam construction in the major river on sediment supply to the Chao Phraya Delta. One of them was the study of the effect of Butsawan Dam on sediment reduction in the Ping River and the Chao Phraya River. They conduct a river survey with a systematic river sediment observation. They carry out river survey during 2019 and 2020 to study the variation of the sediment along the Ping River, which hosts the Butsawan Dam. And the river and sediment observation were carried out at 22 sites along the Ping River. They also analyzed the historical sediment data observed at the hydrological station, several hydrological stations along the river as well. And the result of, based on the result, we found that the annual sedimentation, annual suspended sediment increased towards the downstream of the river. And based on the field observation, they found on the data of the river discharge and the sediment load observed during the 2019 show that the sediment loads in the downstream of the Butsawan Dam obviously increased compared to the upper and the middle basin. And the result also showed that there was only around 5% reduction in sediment load supplied to the Chao Phraya River system after the construction of the Butsawan Dam. In the middle panel show that the sediment load in the upper, the black line show the sediment load in the measured at the P1, which is located in the upper basin. The amount of the sediment load were relatively small compared to the sediment load observed at the station C2, which is located in the Chao Phraya River. So to study the next sediment deposition at the delta, 11 sediment core were collected along the coastline of the Chao Phraya Delta, and led to 10 dating technique was used to estimate the sediment rate along the study area. The led to 10 dating analysis was conducted by Professor Dr. William Burnett from Florida State University. In spite of the sedimentation analysis from this study indicate that the latitude dating of the core around the mouth of the Chao Phraya has shown that the sediment deposition rate have actually increased during the last few decades. And this slide shows the sedimentation rate from this study and compare with the other study along the previous study. And regarding the result from this study, all the latitude assets 4 show essentially the same patterns, significantly higher of the mass accumulated rate during the recent post-dam period than the prior dam construction. And based on our study, we found that the possible sources of the sediment supply to the Chao Phraya Delta can be the sediment from the changing land use in the area surrounding in the lower reach of the Chao Phraya River. Sand mining also can be the source of the sediment supply to the Chao Phraya Delta, to the lower reach of the Chao Phraya River as well. Increase of the irrigation areas, mostly light fatty of 12,000 kilometers in the Chao Phraya River basin during the past several years, can also mobilize the sediment supply to the delta. Along the coastal zone, construction and erosion of the topsoil and earthen dike built to protect the stream pond in the coastal zone can also supply some sediment to the delta. Based on the aerial photograph and satellite imagery, we found that the drainage canal network along the coastline can also supply the sediment from the land to the coastal zone as well. So to sum up, our study we discovered that the severe shoreline retreat in the Chao Phraya Delta mainly caused by the relative sea level change due to the groundwater pumping. And mangrove destruction may not be the major cause of the shoreline retreat in this region. This may amplify the effect of the rapid shoreline, sea level rise only. It doesn't appear that the mangrove reforestation has been responsible for the slowing down the rate of shoreline retreat. The decrease in shoreline retreat may be linked more to the installation of the coastal protection structure rather than the mangrove reforestation itself. And the sediment load at an upstream monitoring station did not change for several years after the dam construction in 1964 and 1972. In spite of the upstream sediment trapping in the dam reservoir, the rate of the sediment accumulation as evaluated by the latitude dating were higher during the post-dam construction interval. And the increase in sediment accumulation in the delta are likely linked to the change of the land use practice. That's all of my talk today. So if you have any questions, please feel free to let me know.
Thank you very much, Dr. Butsawan. It's very, very interesting talk, and now
Thank you
we
so much.
understand much better about the situation of the coastal retreat in the Chao Phraya Delta. So, of course, that's a very, very dramatic change of this river and the delta system in the last 50 or 60 years. So let's see. Our audience, if you have any question, you can go ahead, unmute yourself and ask the Dr. Butsawan directly. Go ahead if you have any question. Okay, King, go ahead.
Hi, thank you so much for your fantastic talk. My name is Pakin Aswapanuwat. I am a currently PhD student in University of Florida, and I interest in the point that you talk about the effects of mangrove restoration regarding the shoreline. Because basically, can it be the case that the mangrove in this region is too young? In other words, they are not mature enough, because if we thinking of that, sometimes mangrove could produce like leaf litters or some of the plant materials that could be deposited at the sediment, not just only trapping the sediment that's come from the upper watershed area. So if we leave that mangrove regions develop like for more years, will it be possible that the mangrove will produce large amount of litter materials that could deposit and stabilize the shoreline in this region?
Okay, thank you for your questions. It's a very important issue that we talk about this for several decades. Based on the observation from the aerial photo and satellite data, we found that the success of the mangrove reforestation cannot be found in the location that have a higher, very high rate of shoreline retreat. Except we use some structure, for example, breakwater or seawall in order to protect the replanted mangrove. Then I think I can show you the figure that they try to replant this one. This is an area of the mangrove rehabilitation. To get this kind of success mangrove forest again, then have to do some protection at the edge of the coastal first. You can see in this figure, they have to build a seawall or some or a breakwater in order to protect the new plant. If you in this, if you have no, if you replant the mangrove without any protection, it's going to cause this situation. You can see the destruction of the mangrove that you just replant. Can you see the figures? Hi, Pakin.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. I answer your question?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. The next one is Shahidul Aslam. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Shahid from Bangladesh. It's a nice presentation. The situation and the scenario you have explained here is nearly similar to our situation in Bengal Delta. Ganges,
Really?
Brahmaputra Delta. But this is, yeah, but our case is little bit large scale, but the process is nearly the same. So I'm
Okay.
little bit puzzled with two of your figure. One side you said that the right side of the bank, just near the mouth, on the right side of the bank, there is a continuous and a very rapid retreat of the shoreline. But the left side, the eastern side of the mouth, you have shown that immediately near to the mouth, there is an accretion. The retreat is just in few kilometer east, that is the middle part of the eastern reefs. So this is one scenario you have explained. If you go further back, and that is the retreat rate is higher in the western side. But on the other map, you have shown that the subsidence rate, you know, is very, very high in the eastern part of the river.
Yes, sir.
So this little bit, how can you explain this in the context of subsidence? But that's one question, subsidence and the retreat of the, if subsidence has a link with the retreat, then it should be the western part of the, western part of the delta should have more, that is less erosion than in the retreat than the eastern part. And another thing is that it's nearly proven case in our situation that we have the experience of both cases. One is the embankment, poldering, and another is the afforestation, that is mangrove afforestation. And we have seen that mangrove is a successful case to stabilize the shore and to increase the rate of sediment trapping. So it is nearly a proof case, and that is due to mangrove afforestation and stabilization. We have been escaped from many of the major cyclones. So mangrove has given us the best protection. So that is the experience we are sharing with you. Thank you. But
thank
nice
you so much.
presentation.
Thank you so much, Professor. Actually in our country, we try to promote the mangrove reforestation for several decades, and just in some area we find it's success, but in some areas not success, and we try so hard in order to replant it. But I guess it's about the high rate of the erosion that the new plant cannot grow. And I think if we would like to try to protect the mangrove, we need to build some structure in order to protect them first, and then they can grow up. And this is the challenge of the country. We try to increase the mangrove forest area. So we try to find a way, the best way, in order to improve our success on mangrove reforestation. And about the relationship between the land subsidence and the erosion rate. Actually, we try to find the factor that control the shoreline retreat rate, because it's very important for policing the shoreline management or coastal management. Sustainable coastal management. If we don't know the major cause of that control the shoreline retreat in this area, it's hard to issue or develop the plan for protecting the coastline. So, but unfortunately, we don't have a lot of groundwater level data, because in my country it has a few ground level measurement. I hope we can get more data based on the new technology that the country is going to invest on this, because they're concerned about the land subsidence issue. So I think this based on our study, we just try to find the major cause first, and then we probably need to do more observation, a lot more of observation, in order to prove that the cause of the shoreline, what is the major cause of shoreline in each location, I guess. Thank you so much, Professor.
Yeah, very good. Actually, Butsawan, we also can use the INSA to do, most recent subsidence assessment. We did this over the Mekong Delta and the Irrawaddy River Delta. We can do some specific area over Chao Phraya River Delta as well.
Oh, that's great, Professor.
Yeah, and also there's a question from Li Min. Li Min, you want to ask you want me to read a question? Li Min, are you still there? Yeah, Li Min, go ahead.
Yeah. Yes, I'm here. Thank you for the informative presentation. I'm very interesting about your result about the 11-10 dating in recent decade. I just want to know if their contribution from the shoreline retreat for the recent increase of the mass accumulation rate, as you observed by the 11-10 dating. I mean, if the mass accumulation rate increased, what's the contribution of the sediment?
Good question.
Thank you.
Yes. So actually, I'm not an expert on the sediment dating technique. We have a professor from Florida State University. He is a leader of the analysis of the latitude dating. But based on his result that he give us, it's very interesting when we found found that in the higher shoreline retreat, in the location that has a higher shoreline retreat, we found the higher accumulation sedimentation rate, and we tried to find the source of the sediment, and we found that the possible cause of the sediment supply from the land probably came from the river we call the drainage channel network along the coastline. I'm not sure whether I can show you. Okay, can you see the river, the channel network over here? Based on the aerial photo and the satellite imagery, we found that this channel supplied a lot of sediment during the flood season, and this can be the source of the sediment, the significant source of the sediment. But we have to prove this later in the future research work.
I think maybe we can try some geochemistry measurement to find the region of sediment.
Professor, do you think we can use the sediment dating in order to trace the source of the sediment?
No, I mean only for use the dating method cannot trace this exactly sediment region. Maybe we need some other geochemistry proxy to do this.
Yeah, one thing maybe Li Min know well is the carbon. We can see the mangrove. If any mangrove carbon, in that soft, recent accumulation. And also, as I mentioned to you, because the first institute from Qingdao and any other, even Florida, they did some surface sample or even box calling latitude 10, but nobody done the seismic. So this is something I really want to collaborate. I want to see how much of the fluid mud, how much of the shoreline, accumulation, Holocene, then combined with the accumulation rate, then with the geochemical organic carbon tracing. So then we can see, or even clean mineral or heavy mineral, some all combined. Then we can figure out.
Yes, I agree with you. That is very interesting Professor.
Okay, I have a quick question. You show the sediment change after the dam, the two dam built in 1950, 60. Then in
Yes.
2011, suddenly there's a sediment load jumped to 22 million tons. Is that caused that year the mega flooding, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
It's caused by the great flood in 2011, sir.
Yeah, and also 2011, actually, I conduct a little bit research. It's never get published, but it show that the dam of that two dam lost the function, cannot store water, but instead had to release more water to the down reach. That's disaster. But anyway, it's very good. About the Florida, you know, they only do a couple coal, right?
Yes.
The Florida, they did the lead to 10 analysis.
Yes. Yes. Yes, sir.
So they use a box coal or gravity coal?
We call vibrator core. Vibrator.
Yeah.
Yes, vibrator. White core.
How long of the coal you got?
We got about 2.1 meter.
2.1. That's pretty good. So
yes,
how deep the coal? How old the sediment you get? You know.
As far as I remember, it should be. Can I ask my student? I guess he works on this. Kim Hui, are you in the meeting?
Yes, I'm here.
Yes. Could you please inform Professor Liu about this, please?
Yes, Professor Lee, the sediment that we can detect the year that we can date around 100 years that they can.
And this is lead to 10, but if you go to 2 meters of the vibrant core, so can you reach 2,000 years Holocene accumulation, or don't know? You have a couple.
It is the limitation of the lead to 10 that we use. It has the ability to access the year of like only about 100 years, because after that it reaches the we call equilibrium.
I know that. But do you have any carbon-14 dating?
Oh no, we do not have.
No, we don't have.
Oh,
yes,
okay.
sir.
Okay. This is something we can do in the future. Okay.
Yes, sir.
But anyway, that's very good. I also have to go, and I have a class at 5 minutes. So I also thank you so much for this very interesting. Let's keep in touch. We have more to talk about. Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much, Professor.